Hey everybody, Ben here from the Bonehead podcast, and welcome to College of Beasts starting rosters. We are having a look at all of the college teams from Dungeon Bowl and putting together some example starting rosters. We're specifically looking at 1 million gold pieces because that's how you start a Dungeon Bowl league, that's how you start a Dungeon Bowl team, and if you are going to a Dungeon Bowl tournament that uses the same rule set as Dorset Dungeon Bowl, that's how you build a Dungeon Bowl team for that as well. Now, we are doing a May update here for the College of Beasts because Norse landed, and in the spike, they had players that were added to the College of Beasts. So we are going to have a look at the rosters from our previous video, looking at starting rosters for the College of Beasts with a few different tweaks, and then a couple of really nonsense builds that you can now build using all those awesome Norse players. Anyway, let's have a look at the College of Beasts. Okay, so with Norse Landing, we've got the Ulfwereners, the Beerboars, and the Yetis that have been bolted on to the College of Beasts. Now, each of the college teams in Dungeon Bowl are made up of different elements of different teams from core Blood Bowl. That means you get brand new shiny rosters and potential and possibilities, and I absolutely love it. Now we've got two top players here. We've got blockers. 0 to 4 have been added, the Ulfwereners. So the Ulfwereners are 105k, movement 6, strength 4, and frenzy. Their armor 9+, so they're reasonably tough, but that strength 4 and frenzy element means that they are brilliant hitters. Now, the College of Beasts previously had the Chaos Chosen Warriors, that's strength 4, and I think they're 100k. So for 5k more, you can instead take a faster player with frenzy. Same strength. Now, the Chaos Chosen block has got better agility at Ag 3+, whereas the Ulfwereners only a 4+ Ag, but the Ulfwereners don't really tend to do a lot of dodging. They want to go through your opponents. So the Ulfwerener, as a bit of an add-on, gives you cheaper access to Frenzy, and Frenzy in a Dungeon Bowl is a very useful skill. And we've got the Beerboars. So if you've watched any of our Norse coverage as the Norse team is being released, you'll know that the way we think about Beerboars is the way that Jimmy Carr thinks about taxes in the UK. This is basically a way to fudge the money. Beerboars are 20k. They are the cheapest lineman out there, basically. When I say cheapest lineman, they're the cheapest player that you can roster for this team, which means that instead of having to pay 60k for a Beastman, you can now pay 20k to get to that 11 players. Now, the great thing about Dungeon Bowl is that some games, not all 11 players get on there. So if your 10th and 11th player are Beerboars, that means you've got 60k more to put into other players, and as long as you're using the Beerboars as your last drops, you're going to have your 9 best players on the pitch within the first 9-10 turns of the game. And then if your Beerboar is your only reserve and you haven't won the game by that point, you're kind of in trouble in a way that a random Beastman probably isn't going to help you anyway. So we can use those Beerboars to adjust some of our rosters to get more of the good stuff in there. And we've got Yetis, and the Yetis are dropping here 140k, 0 to 3 in the big guy slot. It's another great big guy option, and it is now the cheapest big guy frenzy option. Previously to that, you've got the Bloodspawn at 160k, you've got Minotaur 150, you've got Ratog at 150. 140 slot, we're looking at the Croxagore. Now, I ran Croxagores in the College of Beasts. I love Bonehead plus Prehensile Tail, but the Yeti there, 140k for some Frenzy Claw Strength 5 action. Actually really good. So these guys have all been added to the roster. Let's have a quick look at the whole thing put together. And it is a massive menu of monsters here for the College of Beasts. So your lineman hasn't changed. We've got 0 to 16 Beastman runners. Okay, 60k a piece. We've got 0 to 2 runners with the Necromantic Werewolf option. We've got blitzers. You can have 0 to 4 of these. You can have Pestigores or Corngores. I may have put an extra E in there, but that doesn't really matter. So you get up to 4 of those guys. Now, blockers is where it starts getting a bit interesting here. So you can take Chaos Chosen blockers, which are pretty decent. Movement 5, Strength 4, Ag 3+. They actually are really good mid-range players. With a single skill, whatever one you want really, they become really good. Now, you've got a little bit of an option here now. For 5k more, you can upgrade them, in my opinion, to an Ulfwerener. Movement 6, Strength 4, and Frenzy gives you a different option. The blockers are definitely defensive. The Ulfwereners are very definitely offensive. And then you've got the most excellent piece about this team is the absolute variety of big guys. You can take 0 to 3 of them in any combination that you like. We've got Minotaurs, who are great in Dungeon Bowl because that Strength 6 Blitz is gonna basically overstamp whatever your opponent has got. So if they're running an Ogre, if they're running a College of Beasts, your Strength 6 dude is going to be able to trample over them, probably throwing a 2-die block followed by another 2-die block, which I like to call a 4-die block, and putting you in a pretty good space to, you know, melt them. Now the Yetis though, 10k less, you get that Frenzy Claws option. You've got the Rat Ogre 150k, which is like a Yeti but has Mighty Blow instead of Claws. Now the Yeti's got Disturbing Presence as well, which is going to be pretty useful in the dungeon every now and again, so don't forget it. You've got the Croxagore there, 140k, so you kind of got Yeti and Crocs, 140k to be your cheap big guy. Minotaur, Rat Ogre there, 150k to be, you know, kind of mid-range. They've got upside. Prehensile Tail on the Rat Ogre, plus Frenzy, plus Mighty Blow is actually really good. And because they've got, is it Unchanneled Fury or Animal Savagery, you will always be able to do what you want to do with the Rat Ogre, assuming there's someone there to punch them. So that is an advantage. And then at 160k, you've got the Bloodspawn, who's got Claws and is just an absolute tank. I think, well, he's got Claws and Mighty Blow, which doesn't combo quite so well in this edition, but is still a very potent combination because the Bloodspawn is going to be able to hit things in Dungeon Bowl, and actually being able to break the armor on an 8+ and have +1 to injury, you should, in theory, get some pretty good removal from blood spawns if you can run multiple. And then we've got our little accountant friend, the Beer Boar. Pretty much useless. No hands. Will have that stunty titchy kind of dodge around ability, which is going to be pretty cool, but they will melt if you even get looked at. But they're great for balancing the books. And so we're going to look at some of the rosters that we had in the previous video. We've got the Mix 2 reroll here, 990k. 5 Beastman Linemen, 2 Werewolves for that movement 8 blitzing speed. Okay, they've got Frenzy as well, so with a bit of guard support, maybe from your Corngors or Chaos Chosen blockers, they're going to be actually pretty effective at rolling those sweet 4-die blocks, and they've got Claws as well. But realistically, what they're there to be is your Edge 3+, movement 8 pieces to run around and just be a scoring threat, be a fast threat. They don't have to start off in your Vanguard. You can bring them in later, and actually that movement 8 is going to be able to get them where you need them, closer and quicker. 2 Corngors here to be able to just basically pay up a little bit more than a standard Beastman to take Juggernaut. So if you do blitz and get that sweet strength 4 with the Corngor, you're going to have Jugs to make sure that that block is a little bit safer right from the get-go. 2 Chaos Chosen blockers. Now you can flex them here and upgrade them to Ulf Runners. There is money in this roster for you to be able to do that. It depends on what role you want to be playing them as. Ulf Runners are going to get themselves into trouble, but you want to get them stuck in. The blockers are really good at being strength 4 dudes to stand in doorways to just create a blocker of your opponent's path. So actually you can flex one way or another. I'm a big Ulf Runner fan, so actually I'd much rather take a couple of Ulf Runners instead of those blockers, but blockers are good. I've got them in my College of Beast roster. I've put 3 rerolls. I think it's supposed to be 2 rerolls here. And actually, when it comes to Dungeon Bowl, there are going to be games where you do not have enough rerolls. And looking at this roster with the complete lack of block, you may think, oh, I need those rerolls. And there will be some games of Dungeon Bowl where you don't use any at all. I love this one though. The triple Big Frenzy roster comes in bang on 1,000. We've got 6 Beastman Linemen, 2 Corngors, and 3 Minotaur/Rat Ogres with a single reroll. So Beastmen are great. They're just great linemen. The Corngors are even better because they've got that Juggernaut ability when they're blitzing around. And then you've got a mix of big guys here. So there's a couple of things we can do with this roster. You've got Minotaurs and Rat Ogres. Actually, you can chuck in Yetis in there instead if you want slightly cheaper access to Frenzy. You'll save a few 10Ks. And basically, if you dropped maybe 2 of those down to Yetis or the lizard dudes, Croxagores, you save 10k, and for each 10k that you save, you can upgrade another Beastman to a Corngor. The standard stats are fine, you just get that better flexibility. But you get 3 Rat Ogres, 3 Minotaurs, 3 Yetis on this roster. You're going to go into a corridor, you're going to go, that guy's going that way, that guy's going there, that guy's going that way. The rest of my team are going to run around, find the ball, get in combat, and you can slowly move these big bruisers up. And when they get into a brawl, if your opponent is progressing down one corridor, if you need to progress through a corridor, Minotaur strength 3 blitz, strength 5 blitz, strength 6 blitz even, the Rat Ogre with strength 5 frenzy, it's just going to be an absolute mess. And now we can sneak the Yeti in there for an even cheaper cost. definitely worth considering. 3 reroll Chaos Heavy roster is actually one you can flex quite nicely now with these changes. This one came in at 980. You had 8 Beastmen, 2 blockers, 2 Chaos Chosen blockers, and a Minotaur with 3 rerolls. This is pretty mid-range. You've got those blockers and the Minotaur to be your kind of main defense, and you've got Beastmen who are incredibly useful in Dungeon Ball because if you need to blitz with them, they are going to have that strength 4. They're going to be able to fight equally with the metal colleges and be able to really kind of at least create a bit of a threat to some of the other heavier ones. Now, the flex here comes. You can drop that Minotaur down to a Yeti to save a bit of cash if you want to. You can just trade him out. But realistically, 980, you've got 2 blockers. You can upgrade both of them to Ulf Warriors if you want to have that just bigger impact when it comes to counter-attacking. It's not even going to be less reliable. Okay, the blockers don't have block, they have no combat skill. The only thing you're going to be doing is potentially frenzy trapping yourself, and you do hurt yourself ever so slightly when it comes to agility by taking a Ulfborner at Edge 4+ instead of a blocker at Edge 3+. But dude, movement 6 frenzy versus movement 5 no frenzy, I'm a frenzy. And we're going to have a quick look at the Chaos Wolf roster that Darren Martin suggested to us. 985, 6 Beastmen, 4 Chaos Chosen blockers, and a Werewolf walk into a bar, and they get given 2 rerolls to max out their team. 2 rerolls, 3 rerolls. The College of Beasts, you are going to run out because you are going to be making a lot of blocks, so having a decent amount of rerolls is going to be pretty useful for your team. But this roster here gives you 4 Strength 4 pieces and 1 Movement 8, okay? Chuck in a Beastman, that's your Vanguard sorted. Okay, you use those Strength 4 pieces to deploy to create a nice bit of defense, and you send off the Beastman and the Werewolf into the dungeon to try and track down the ball, and you bring in your Beastman, who at Edge 3+, Movement 6 and Strength 4 Blitz are going to be able to maneuver around the dungeon to at least create problems or to get them where you need to go. Now, what you can do here is flex a few of those Chaos Chosen blockers into Ulfwarriors. I think if I was looking at this roster, I'd probably take 1 or 2 Ulfwarriors, leaving 2 Chaos blockers to kind of be the gatekeepers. That's 2 Strength 4 dudes kind of near your end zone, and then you've got 2 Strength 4 Frenzy dudes supporting the rest of your Strength 3 team to go around there. Now, this is a light build when it comes to the beasts, but it is going to be slightly more reliable, but you can add that Frenzy in here just to give you a little bit more punch for basically not a huge amount of cash trade-off. But we've got some fun new stuff. So this is the Mega Frenzy build, or Norse a good idea as we called it. So this one comes in bang on 1 million gold pieces, 4 Beastman linemen, 2 beer boars to save us some cash, and then we've just gone frenzy heavy, 4 Ulfwarriors and 3 Norse Yetis with absolutely 0 rerolls. So in a standard build, you are going hellbent from the beginning. Okay, you are bingo on rerolls, it is over. But you have got 4 Strength 4 Frenzy and 3 Strength 5 Frenzy, and you've got some Beastmen there to do the game. This is a cage match. Okay, you are playing Dungeon Bowl here without any intent really to get the ball. This is all about just piling in teams of Beastmen with Ulfwarriors, Yetis, and just going, okay, 4-die block here, 4-die block here, maybe even cheeky 6-die block, and just melting the opponent. This is horrific. And when it comes to us getting some Dungeon Bowl teams to the standard 11s pitch, this is the roster I want to play with because it is filthy, it is broken, it is horrid, and I love it. It's going to kill itself. The College of Beast rosters do tend to kill themselves because you rely on big, dumb strength. Well, this is the biggest, dumbest strength we can really get on this roster, and it is amazing. Now, if you want to flex it to something a bit more sensible, then actually you could take blockers instead. You can trade out, I don't know. Why are you doing it? This is amazing. 0 rerolls is bad, but the rest of the roster is mad. Or you could be a bit more sensible now. Another new roster here, the mid-range mix, 990k. 4 Beastmen, 2 Beer Boars. So we're still relying on those Beer Boars to be our last 2 drops into the dungeon, and they're not going to add a huge amount. So 2 Necro Werewolves, 2 Chaos Chosen blockers, and a Bloodspawn, 2 rerolls. So what we've got here is we've got 2 rerolls to give a bit of consistency. We've got that Bloodspawn to be your main piece of removal. You've got 2 Chosen blockers there to be the heavies, whether they're punching through or not. Now we've got 2 Werewolves in this roster. So you've got that extra bit, that extra 2 pieces of movement 8 speed, which in a dungeon can be massive. And the fact that they've got Frenzy means that as long as you can set them up with a support, movement 8 Strength 3 going to Strength 3+1, and then Frenzy Claws means that actually those werewolves can be cheeky little javelin missiles, which can be huge. But we've got some flex here as well. Those werewolves, you can drop them down and make them Ulfwereners. Those Chaos Chosen blockers, you can pay a little bit more and make them Ulfwereners. And the Bloodspawn is the most expensive big guy, so you can drop him out to anybody that you want to be. If you want a Strength 6 Blitzer, the Minotaur is excellent. If you want that Prehensile Tail in there, then you've got the Crocs, you've got the Rat Ogre to be your choice. But it's going to be awesome. This is a really good place to start with beasts. You get a bit of everything. How many players we got? It is just the 11 players, so you are a bit vulnerable there. But you've got 2 of those Movement 8 werewolves. You've got the Ulfwerener Chaos Chosen option. You've got a big guy. You've got Great Beastman. You will have enough strength to counter the fact that you're realistically only playing with 9 players. And the cool thing about Dungeon Bowl is you don't have to bring in a dude. You can actually just repair a KO. And it might be that instead of worrying about bringing in a Beerball, it makes that option to use the Magic Sponge to get one of your other damaged guys back into the arena even quicker. I love this. This, I think, it's not obviously as fun as the Norse A Good Idea build, but this one is probably a better idea. And the last roster I had to show off was just a 3 big mix. Again, we're relying on the Beerballs there to counterbalance the cost, which means we get a bit of more stuff. This one comes in bang on a million. 3 Beastmen, 2 Beerballs, 2 Blockers, 2 Croxigors, a Yeti, and 2 rerolls. So really that Beerball option, this is essentially the roster I ran in our Dungeon Bowl tournament. That is our Dungeon Bowl series. But because those Beerball saves you 60k, you're able to buy rerolls here. Okay, it hurts. You have to take a Yeti instead of something else like a Bloodspawn, you know, but that's fine. This would have allowed me with those Beerballs to take an extra reroll and still keep my big Crocs. Croxigors, I love them in Dungeon Bowl. Prehensile Tail Bonehead makes them really reliable. Strength 5 Mighty Blow means they're very dangerous. They're really good. The Yeti is going to be a great piece, but the Bloodspawn is better. So the only thing you could kind of flex out here is take 1 reroll, upgrade the Yeti to the Bloodspawn, and that's going to cost you 20k. That gives you 30k, which you can then turn a Beerball into nothing at all. So difficult one. Very, very, very difficult here. And getting the balance right, take that 30k, upgrade the Chosen blockers into Ulfwereners, and then you pound in face. The cool thing here is there's so much you can play with when it comes to just jiggery pokery, that the lists are endless and endless fun. I'm supposed to finish up these videos with the best roster and what I think is the most sensible, and if I was going to give you one roster, it would be take this roster, it's a great place to start. No, this one is amazing. It is complete nonsense. If you show up to a Dungeon Bowl game, a Dungeon Bowl tournament with 4 Ulfwereners and 3 Yetis, it's just like, what is this? And your opponent knows you're not going for the ball. But the cool thing here is that the Yeti and the Ulfwerener can pick up the ball as good as anybody from a treasure chest. And now with armor 9, they're actually pretty resilient too. So you've got a really cheeky way of being like, cool, my Ulfwerener now has the ball. My Yeti now has the ball. And I am just going to take my time, throw in 4 and 3. So that's 7. Let's say they're 2 die blocks. 14 dice. 14 good dice a turn at your opponent. And you start off with only, 6 players in the dungeon. And if your first 6 players are 2 Yetis and 4 Ulfwereners, you're going to spread out and you're going to win any one of those combats. You drop in a Yeti on your first turn as the deep striking Yeti. Wherever he lands in that dungeon, your opponent now cannot go. It's a terrible idea for them to go there because you've got a sneaky, cheeky little Yeti blitz. I love it. I cannot wait to see this roster played out, and it's going to be the next one I run when I run College of Beasts. It's not going to win a lot, but man, it is going to crush an insane amount, and it's just super fun. Anyway, guys, I'm going to wrap up. Let me know what you think of the change to College of Beasts and what other rosters you've got brewing up. With Dungeon Bowl, there is potentially endless rosters, and it makes me so happy. Anyway, thanks very much for watching. We'll be back soon with more Blood Bowl content. Happy Dungeoneering. Thanks very much for watching. We really appreciate your support. If you want to help support the channel even further, please like and subscribe, or come join us on our Patreon. We have early access to content. We get loads of feedback from you guys, and we try and do competitions as much as we can. Or you can get yourself some Bonehead Podcast merch on our Spreadshirt site. So if you want to support a team, especially for the Bonehead Championship, you can pick up a shirt, a mug, things like that. It all helps support the channel and we really appreciate it. Anyway, links below. Thank you very much. Happy blocking.